Welcome to the Dan Norton Show. It is Saturday, August 2nd, 2025 at 1:15 p.m. Pacific. This is closer to my former typical time of streaming, and I will get to the reason for that very shortly. So for a long time, I had been streaming at 1 p.m. Pacific, or at least roughly around there on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Today's a Saturday. So this had been my normal streaming time for 3 or 4 months, starting in March. We're now in August. But for the last few streams, I've been streaming on different days and at different times, and for much longer than I used to. I used to stream for about 2 hours, but lately I've been going for well beyond that, sometimes over 3, over 4, even over 5 hours. But I wanted to go back to at least a sort of normal time for today because I got a lot of new subscribers, and they might have seen that it still says on my channel what my typical times were. So if you look in the About section of my channel, it says that I typically stream Wednesdays and Saturdays around 1 p.m. Pacific. And in case some of my new subscribers saw that and wanted to come by, I wanted to do a stream uh, today at that, at least close to that normal time. Also saw some people watch the intro video to my live streams, and I also say in that intro video that I usually stream around this time. So at least for today, I wanted to stream around this time. I might have done it anyways, but it gave me an additional reason to stream at this time. But going forward, I think I might stream at different days, different times. So if I decide that, I guess I'll update the info on my in the About section on my channel. So the big news is I got 35 new subscribers from Facebook. So I put that in the title. I put a post. I'll share that, I guess. Let me try to pull that up. Just yesterday, I put a post on Facebook, which let me share that. Actually, I tried to add some audio to it, so maybe I can get the audio to show up as well. Um, Let me see if I can do that. Oh, I'm getting a message from Zoom that says to share your computer audio, please install the Zoom audio device. Please restart your audio sharing application, such as the media player after install to continue sharing computer sound. All right, maybe it's asking me for a password. Maybe if I put that in, it'll let me play the audio. I guess we'll find out. And hopefully you didn't lose my audio as a result of doing this. So if you came over here from Facebook today, welcome to my show. This is a show on which I promote Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism, a philosophy of reason, egoism, and capitalism. And I invite you to participate either in the chat or by calling in. I see we got Jason here. He says, hi, and your audio is wacky. It's better now though. Okay. I was listening to my last stream and it seems like there was some wackiness in the audio there. I'm not sure why. I was having internet connection problems. So right now it tells me I have an excellent connection. Seems like there was so hopefully the audio is going to be good. But last time it was buffering and it got disconnected a couple times and I ended up switching from my Wi-Fi to using my phone as a hotspot. And it worked well from that point on, I think. But that was about, I don't know, half an hour or an hour into the show. Um, Jason says it was the play from the Facebook of me cooking. Oh, that was the only part that was wacky. The other part was okay. Okay. Um, well, at least it got some audio. Thanks for doing that, Jason. Appreciate it. Um, that was a nice little surprise. So maybe any Facebook or external audio, not your voice, loops into an echo. Sometimes I play my phone just to make sure I can hear myself and that the audio is coming through. And you might hear an echo from that, but there could be other ways of generating an echo. Thanks for the likes on the stream, by the way. That'll help the show grow. In addition to getting more subscribers, getting more likes also is important. More shares, likes, comments, all of that. Um, Someone commented in my Facebook thread that they asked if I like how I was doing on watch time because that's another thing you need to another metric you need to meet in order to get monetized. In addition to having a certain number of subscribers, 1,000, you also need to have 4,000 hours of watch time within the last 12 months to get monetized. And right now I have around 1,700. So I've got to double that, more than double that. But I think I'm on pace to do that. Like if I keep doing these live streams, um, like over the next 12 months, I think I am on pace to get this 4,000 hours of watch time. And someone has suggested that like it's kind of a cheat way to get watch time. You could just create a playlist and then start watching the playlist on your own computer and just let it go in the background and just do other things. So you're not really watching it, but you're just having it play continuously. So your channel is building up watch time. But I don't know if YouTube has a way to detect that you're doing that. Maybe it does, like if it can identify your IP address and if it knows maybe there's certain patterns it can look for to detect if someone is trying to cheat the system and just get phony watch time by doing that, or having your friends do that. Um, I don't do that. I don't want to do that. I want to get, genuine watch time from people who are actually interested in my videos. And that's good for me to know, like um, what is interesting to people. So I want to have real data. Um, and I think I'm doing well with watch time. And I'm actually not sure which metric I'm going to hit first. Like, am I going to hit 1,000 subscribers or am I going to get 4,000 hours of watch time? Um, we're sort of they're both growing at a rate where I might hit both of those around the same time. So we'll see. I also want to do something on Twitter like I did on Facebook, where I put that post up saying how many subscribers I have now and invite people to help me get to 1,000. But I want to wait for Facebook to play out and see how many I get from that. Because I like to isolate the variables. I was thinking about doing a post on Facebook and on Twitter or on X at the same time to get more subscribers, but um, then I thought, oh, actually, I should just do one at a time, and then I'll have a better sense of like what kind of audience I have on which platform, how many subscribers I get from which platform, instead of just having it all kind of um, blurred together and not know, where is my audience coming from. So I can get more accurate data about that if I do one at a time. There's also a Facebook page I have on Facebook. So in addition to my personal Facebook page, I also have a page called the Selfishness Project. Actually, I could share that. Um, Let me do that. I don't use it much. I used to use it more, but um, when I first started my YouTube channel, it was all about the topic of selfishness. And I created what I called the Selfishness Project. And I would just go around and talk to people on my university campus. I was still in university at the time, working on finishing up my PhD. And that's the same time I started my YouTube channel, and it was all focused on selfishness. So I have a bunch of interviews of me um, talking to people, and I created a special Facebook page just for that, separate from my personal Facebook page. And I'm trying to find that now. Maybe I should just do a search on Facebook for. Oh, actually, let me try one other thing first. Oh, there it is. The Selfishness Project. Oh, is this only going to show? I want it to display the way you would see it, not the way I would see it. So let me try. Oh, view as. That's what I think I need to hit. Here we go. Yeah, let me share this. Okay, so here's the page, the Selfishness Project, 386 followers, which is actually much less than my personal Facebook page. I have thousands of followers on my my personal Facebook page. So it says, exploring the idea of selfishness with Dan Norton, PhD in philosophy and graduate of the, I guess that used to say Ayn Rand Institute. Maybe they changed the character limit. I haven't visited this page myself in a long time, so some of this is new to me. But here's some of the videos. I had a conversation with a Christian, episode number 34. He's holding up his sign, inviting people to come to Jesus. And this is on my YouTube channel. All of these videos are on my YouTube channel. Is being a veterinarian selfless or selfish? But you have to go back to the old videos. So if you can sort by oldest or newest videos or most popular. If you sort by oldest videos, that'll bring up all these episodes of the Selfishness Project. Um, so it looks like I did 34 episodes, and then about a year after doing this, I decided to expand the scope of my channel and talk about philosophy more generally, not just the topic of selfishness, um, but open it up to anything. So, existence of God, free will, politics. Um, so I stopped like branding my channel as much on just the topic of selfishness. And so, um, but I still have this page. I haven't taken this page down. And what I was thinking is I would put up a post on this page as opposed to my personal Facebook page and see if I can get some more subscribers. Of maybe there are people who follow this Selfishness Project page, but they don't follow my personal page. I'm not sure how much of an overlap there is in the two audiences, but I thought maybe I could get some more subscribers if I put a post on this page. So I think I'm going to do that. That's a way of isolating the variables, post in different places on Facebook at different times and see how much traffic, how much subscribers I get. Um, so so there's another part of my universe here, which maybe you didn't know about, the Selfishness Project. All right, I'm going to stop this screen share now and come back to the chat. Okay, no new chats, but I see we got some more viewers and more likes. Thank you. Appreciate it. Welcome here. And feel free to jump into the chat at any time with a comment, with a question, or you can just say hi. It's always interesting to know who's here. But if you want to just be anonymous and watch, that's fine too. And if you want to call in, you're free to do that. So that's the biggest news since last stream a couple days ago. Getting all these subscribers, and I told you some about my plans for hopefully getting more subscribers. And other than that, I have continued reading. I often give a reading update. I do a lot of reading between streams lately. I've been studying the Bible, studying Israel. I've been reading in the Bible the book of Numbers lately. That is the fourth book of the Bible. And so in that book, and I got interested in this from my reading about Israel, which was related to current events because you've got the war in Gaza going on. And sometimes people chat about, in my YouTube chat, they want to talk about Israel or call in about Israel. And I wanted to be more informed about that topic. So I was reading about current Israel history, but then that learning about that made me interested in more ancient history because how did Israel get to be the way it is? Well, there's a very long tradition, hundreds, thousands of years, some of it mythological, some of it not. But I'm interested in the whole sweep of history. So at a certain point in my study of the history of Israel, I decided to take a break from that and go to the ancient history or mythology, since it might not actually be true, well, at least not all of it. And I wanted to read the Bible. So, um, which has uh, been hugely influential on culture. So even if you disagree with the ideas in the Bible, even if they're antagonistic to your ideas, I think it's still helpful to know if you want to understand the world, how it came to be the way it is, and what kind of ideas people hold. If you want to be persuasive to other people, it helps to understand their context. So I think there are reasons, at least for some people, to read the Bible, but not for everyone, right? For some people, it might be just like a waste of time. If you're not in the business of communicating about trying to change the culture and well, I mean, even if you are in that business, you might not necessarily be interested in reading the Bible because there's a million ways you could do that. Um, like Alex Epstein, you could focus on energy issues and become an expert in that. I have a more I have a more general kind of focus. I like to talk about a vast array of issues, philosophy and history. So it's not necessarily right for everyone, but for me, I think it made sense. So I have some motivation right now, at least, to read the Bible. This is actually my second time. I did read it many years ago, but um, I'm getting a much better grasp on it now. It's helpful to go through it again. There's only so much you can get on one reading, and I'm reading a bunch of ancillary articles as well, like on Wikipedia that help explain what's going on in the Bible or other resources in addition to Wikipedia. So it's not just the Bible. It's the Bible and then secondary or tertiary sources that help explain what's going on. Um, and also I'm reading a different version this time through. Like when I first read the Bible, like 20 years ago, I read the King James version mostly, but that's pretty hard to understand, at least relative to other translations. Right now, I'm reading the New International Version, which I think was designed to be much more readable. And I am finding it to be easier to read. So I think it's partly that, just that I'm reading a different version, in addition to the fact that I'm reading these supplementary articles that's making it um, easy, easier for me to comprehend it this time through. One interesting thing I came across was uh, you know how the one of Israel's recent military operations was called Operation Rising Lion? I'm I'm uh, I'm just doing a quick search on that so I can give you a nice little summary. Here's the AI summary from Google. Operation Rising Lion refers to a large-scale military operation launched by Israel against Iran on June 13th, 2025. The strikes were a preemptive measure targeting Iran's nuclear weapons program and military infrastructure, described as a response to Iran's increasing enrichment of weapon-grade uranium and a plan for a multi-front attack on Israel. Well, I happened to find this, was it this morning or yesterday? The passage in the Bible that is the reason for calling it Rising Lion, Operation Rising Lion. And it's in the book of Numbers, which is the one I just happened to be reading, chapter 23. And let me bring that passage up, and then I'll share it. And let's see, is it verse 20, 24? Yeah, verse 24. Okay. Okay, so here's the Book of Numbers, chapter 23, New International Version. And this is when the Israelites are working their way to the Promised Land. They've left Egypt. They've come out of Egypt, and they got the laws of the Ten Commandments handed down from God in Sinai. And then they wander around the desert for 40 years. And on their way, wandering back, they encounter various people. And one of the people they encounter, or actually, this chapter, I think, this is not Israelites talking. This is other people who are, one of which is antagonistic. Balak, this guy, he's a king of some, is it Moab? Some neighboring place to Canaan. And he calls on this prophet, Balaam, to curse the Israelites. But instead, Balaam blesses the Israelites because God commands him to do this. And Balaam, even though he's conscripted to curse the Israelites by Balak, he actually ends up doing the opposite. Um, the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, "Go back to Balak and give him this word." And he says various things. Um, so Balak wants him to curse the Israelites, but Balaam says, "How can I curse those whom God has not cursed?" God has not cursed the Israelites. Um, okay, so this is the part where we get to the lion, Balaam's second message. Balak asked Balaam, "What did the Lord say? What did God tell him to say?" I don't want to read all of it. I just want to get closer to the lion part. I have received a command to bless. He has blessed, and I cannot change it. The Lord their God is with them. There is no divination against Jacob, one of the Israelites. No evil omens against Israel. It will now be said of Jacob and of Israel, see what God has done. The people rise like a lioness. They rouse themselves like a lion that does not rest till it devours its prey and drinks the blood of its victims. So that's the source of the name Operation Rising Lion. The Israelites are compared to a lion who cannot be kept down. They won't be conquered. They will devour other people who interfere with their destiny, I guess. So I thought that was nice just to you've got this very contemporary mention in the news today, and then I just happened to randomly come across it in this ancient text from millennia ago. And now you know where the verse is. If you maybe you already know, but I think I heard it was based on something in the Bible, but I didn't know exactly where. So it's interesting that it's in the very place I happen to be reading. Tom is here. Tom Koziol. He says, I just finished reading James Tabor's translation of Genesis in the Transparent English Bible. Okay. Well, welcome, Tom. I think this might be your first time chatting, but your name looks kind of familiar. So I don't know if maybe I've seen you on Facebook or somewhere, but anyways, welcome. I wonder what inspires your reading of the Bible. I said some things about how I'm interested in learning the Bible because it just helps understand culture, and I think it can be helpful for persuading other people or having discussions. Like if I'm in a discussion with religious people, a Jew or a Christian, it could be helpful to understand their context better. And there are billions of people like that, right? So maybe it makes that audience more accessible to me if I understand where they're coming from more. But I'm curious what interests you in reading the Bible. Maybe you are Jewish or Christian, I don't know. Um, or maybe you have some other kind of motivation. All right. Oh, I think you might be seeing my a different screen now. Anyways, that's okay. This is my behind. I don't know if you're seeing the black screen. I think that popped up once before, which I didn't intend, but that's okay. Or do you still see the book of numbers, it looks like. Okay. All right, let me stop that screen share. See what the screen delay is like. 5 seconds, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I want to see when my screen changes. I think it's usually about a 15-second delay. Looks like it maybe about 20-second delay today between like when I'm saying something and when you hear it. All right, so I don't usually have a lot in the way of pre set up topics to talk about. It's not like you're on Brooks' show if you watch him, where he's got a whole list of topics and he covers the news. I might have one or two things, and I talked about them already. So the main news was just talking about the new subscribers I got from Facebook, and then I gave you my little reading update on the Bible. But I depend in large part, to a large extent, on topics that you all want to talk about. So if there's anything you want to raise, have me discuss, you want to, or we can debate something, um, I invite you to say something in the chat or call in. Otherwise, we can debate something. I'll have to come up with something else to say, or I could just do a short stream. A shorter than usual stream. Um, that's another possibility. Looks like my stream's bit rate is a bit slower now than it was 10 minutes ago, but not as bad as it was yesterday, 2 days ago. Okay. Um, so anyone want to raise the topic? Ask a question. Looks like did something just Tom just put something else in the chat. It is Saturday, August 2nd. Let me just mute something here. He says the Bible is a significant part of Western intellectual history. Yeah, definitely. And that's a big part of the reason I'm reading it. I've read so much history. That's the main thing I study these days. Um, Even more than philosophy, maybe at least in terms of the time I spend reading. Like it's maybe it's not easy to quantify, but if we're just talking about the time I spend reading things, I think it's definitely history more than anything else. When I was grad school, it would have been philosophy, but since then, it's been more history. Um, and typically, Wikipedia is the source that I read. I think it's an amazing resource, and it's all hyperlinked, so it's so easy to get around, and I don't have to have a bunch of unwieldy books. Now, if you want to be an expert in some topic, you need to go beyond Wikipedia, but just to get the basic idea of something, there's a tremendous amount you can learn from Wikipedia, which so as a beginning source for understanding things, I think it's excellent. See, you put this looks like some kind of symbol at the end of your chat. I don't know what that is. It's like a on a map, you stick these pins and then it's got like radiating out. Um, but I'm not sure what significance you mean that to have, or if you just put that in randomly. Okay, Jason just put in a question, looks like. He says, I have a question I sent Peikoff once about casinos. I can send to you and see how you answer. I don't have strong feelings about it. I guess I own a bar, so maybe I'm a casino. I'm casino adjacent. Okay, sure. Yeah, you can send in that question. And I'll see what I can do with it. I have very little experience gambling myself. It's not really a thing I do. I've been to Vegas, I don't know how many times, maybe five or six, but I've never gambled there. Um, okay, so now Jason is starting to put in his question. Oh, you're giving a reply from Leonard Peikoff? Oh, that's it? It's a four-word answer. So what's the question though? Oh, looks like Jason unintentionally put the answer before the question. All right. Then I won't read the answer yet. I'll wait till I see what the question is. Even though if you're watching the live chat, you could see the answer first. Okay. In a free society, would a lottery to help finance the limited functions of a government be proper, or would it interfere with the rights of private casino owners? And Leonard Peikoff says it would be proper. Jason quoted that already. And that seems right to me as well. I would agree with that. As long as you're not initiating force, then I think it should be fine. And if you run a lottery, whether you're the government or a private casino owner, you're not initiating force. Um, yeah, I don't think it would interfere with the rights of private casino owners for the government to also run a lottery. I guess lotteries are one of the mechanisms Ayn Rand mentions, I think, in her article, Government Financing in a Free Society. She also talks about voluntary contributions. Uh, and mostly what she talks about is a new idea other than voluntary contrib or donations and then lotteries. She talks about paying the government to enforce contracts as a means of the government as a means for the government to raise revenue. Um, I have a couple videos on my channel specifically about how government financing would work in a free society. I think one is titled How to Fund the Government Without Taxes, and the other maybe is something like how would the police, firefighting, and roads be funded in a free society, something like that. Not that roads should be financed by the government, but it's just something that people often bring up when you discuss laissez-faire capitalism. What about the roads? Like, what about like firefighters, which think should also be private, not a government function, because it doesn't deal with coercion. Fighting fires is not fighting coercion. Coercion is something that people do, not nature. Although, if someone sets a fire, an arsonist, then you could use force against him. But the fire itself, if it's just a wildfire, not set by a person, then that's not an issue of coercion. So I don't think that's something that it's the government's role to deal with. RW is here. Hello. Um, we were talking about immigration last time when you were here. I'm kind of curious what you think of that. If you want to talk more about that, or what your thoughts are on that whole discussion. Um, but I see Jason put another chat in here on the casino topic. He says, but the government's lottery gets in the way of casino businesses. So there is some competition, I guess. Uh, s- but I guess if the competition does not involve initiating force, then I don't see why it would be right for it to be banned. So I guess if the government was handing out licenses and being a gatekeeper as to who could run a lottery, I think that would involve force because that would mean that if you don't have a license, you're forcibly stopped. I mean, under threat of jail or fine or something, you're forcibly stopped from running it. So I don't think the government should be in the business of giving out licenses to do a lottery. That would coercively interfere, but if it's just doing its own lottery, um, why not? Jason says, but then why not make cookies to finance the government? Um, I don't know. Um, I guess some like do a bake sale, right? Is that the idea? Um, there, I guess it's up to maybe it should be up to the just the voluntary choices of people. Like, do I want to help fund the government who gets its money by doing bake sales? Like, is that an efficient way? Is that the most efficient way for the government to raise money, or is it more efficient for it to do something like run a lottery? Um, maybe it would be very inefficient for the government to try to raise funds through a bake sale. Like, would it have to get in the business of hiring bakers and find out who's a good baker? And maybe it would just involve too much that's uh, not directly related to the proper function of government, which is to protect people from force. I mean, there are government contractors and they have a role. So, um, like there's defense contractors, but that's very closely tied to the government's proper function of protecting people from force. But what about like the uniforms of the policemen, right? Who's going to make the clothes for the government's police force? Should the clothes manufacturers be part of the government, or should they be contractors? Um, I haven't thought much about this. Like every little thing that the government needs to function. What about the pens and the pencils in the offices of the government officials? Does the government now go into the business of creating pens and pencils, or does it just uh, have a certain budget? And there's a lot of little details here that I haven't thought through, but I see Jason just put in a couple new chats. The government competes with Oreo, like if it does a bake sale. But if the point of Oreo or Nabisco or whoever the owner of Oreos are, I don't know, um, is to make a profit, right? Whereas the point of the government is not to make a profit. It's to extract force from society. So they're not really in competition, at least not in the same way, if the government is doing a bake sale to raise money. At least the purpose of it is different. Um, like maybe if the government has a surplus, has way more money than it needs, it'll just stop doing its bake sale. Whereas Oreo or Nabisco might just keep going. They're like there really is no point at which they would stop. Just keep trying to increase wealth for shareholders. So there's some kind of difference there. Um, but let me read this other one from Jason. I think it's okay because it is his choice. Unneeded gambling versus eating, and because we are funding a government that is meant to have the monopoly of the initiation of force and defense of individual rights. And when we buy a lottery ticket, we are being patriotic and supporting it. I just want to read this chat in a different window. So I'm not sure I have much more to say on this, but I've given you some of my initial thoughts. These aren't like polished answers. This is not a well worked out view. There are there are different methods of raising revenue for the government. So the three mentioned in Ayn Rand's article, uh, donations, lotteries, and then paying the government to enforce contracts. Should we add bake sales to that? A fourth? Um, and like, how do you choose between these? Is it just whatever is the most efficient at raising earn? Like, what if it turned out that bake sales were a very efficient way of getting money? Like, you could raise money more easily that way than through doing a lottery. Should the government do a bake sale or at least get a private contractor to do a bake sale? Um, I'm not sure. Uh, Jason says, I can tell over dinner Yaron disagreed with that answer, but I'll save that for later. Okay. So you had dinner with Yaron, I guess, in somewhere. Maybe you met him in Florida. I think you said you went to a conference in Florida, which I think he was at. Maybe that was it. Um, all right, so we got some more chats from RW coming in. He says, I'll respond here in chat with a few chats regarding your last live stream when you discussed proper policies on immigration. I often forgot that just because someone moves into your country doesn't mean they get to vote, right? Because you're not a citizen just by moving somewhere. You might become, you might get a green card and become a legal permanent resident, which I think is basically what the green card gives you. You can permanently reside somewhere as opposed to just coming here on a temporary visa, like a student visa or a work visa, where you get to come here for a number of years. If you get a legal permanent resident visa, or maybe it's not, I don't know if it's, maybe that's called an immigrant visa, aka green card. I forget all the terms, but even that I don't think gets you the right to vote. I think you still have to do something further to become a citizen, which once you're a citizen, then you can vote and then have an influence on the government, which is what one of the things we were talking about last time. RW was saying, what if you have like 1 billion people move here to a country with 300 million people, and then they all of a sudden they import these bad ideas if they're coming from a place where bad ideas are popular, and then they change the government. And I was saying, well, just because they come here doesn't mean they're going to be able to do that because they're not necessarily citizens. So this is part of a larger discussion of like whether we should have open immigration and what the benefits and risks of that are. So, but let me continue reading what RW wrote here. He says there could be a tiered list of countries based on how much that country's government respects individual rights that sets how many generations you need here until you get to vote or run for political office. So I think there doesn't need to be a limit on people coming into a country. There should be basic screening for criminality or terrorism. Okay. So, more thoughts on that. Let me read it, part of this again. A tiered list of countries based on how much that government respects individual rights. Well, what about uh, a place like Iran, where you've got a theocracy, a terrible government, which is very antagonistic to individual rights, but I think many of its population are not like that. They're much more supportive of individual rights, and I think many people will like to get rid of the mullah's government. So I think we should welcome people like that and not necessarily not penalize them because of what their government is. I mean, like if you're you're a defector from North Korea, to take another example. If we're if we're ranking their government, I mean, it's going to get a terrible ranking when it comes to individual rights, but do we now want to prevent the poor citizens who are suffering under that from being able to escape it, escape the tyranny, and come to the US? Um, doesn't strike me as obvious that that would be a good policy. Um, maybe why? How about just put the government officials on a list or something and prohibit them? Like if you're part of the authoritarian regime that's oppressing people, or the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, who's enforcing the oppressive laws of the regime, maybe exclude those people. But if why not let other people in the country in? So then you say that sets how many generations you need to be here until you get to vote or run for political office. Yeah, I'm doubtful of that. I'm because I think that's penalizing people because of something they haven't done, rather penalizing them for the way their government is. Maybe it's different if it's a place like Gaza, where I think many of in the population are pro-Hamas and supported October 7th massacres. Um, but there, in that case, there's a lot of alignments between the population and the governing body, Hamas and the people they govern. So I think that's a different sort of case than Iran. Um, so maybe they should be dealt with differently. Um, and then I see a couple new chats, but I'm still looking at this chat from 2:08 p.m. Pacific from RW. He says, so I think there doesn't need to be a limit on people coming into a country. There should be basic screening for criminality and or terrorism. I'm not sure about that. And I talked a little about this last time. Like if we're talking about people coming from Canada, a peaceful, friendly country, although maybe Trump is making them more antagonistic to the US by um, enforcing or at least proposing tariffs. Um, I think this is the case with many countries. There's antagonism being created that didn't need to be. But assuming we're in a context where we're neighbors with a peaceful, friendly country, an ally, I don't see a need for screening for criminality or terrorism, just as I don't see it for between state boundaries. You could cross from Texas into Oklahoma. I said this last time, I think. Um, why? I don't think there should be checkpoints between the states, even though you could have some bad actor crossing the state borders. You could there's really you could do this at many levels. You could have it at county levels or at city levels, like crossing the street. Um, where do you draw the line? Like, what is too small of a unit? I'm not sure there's any principled reason to set up a checkpoint at an international border, but not at these more local borders, unless it's a country which is clearly which is at war with you, like Israel is with its neighboring, with at least some of its neighbors. If there's a clear physical threat, if it's not a peaceful ally, then I think it's okay to have to screen for, or it maybe shut down entirely, not even screen, but um, now maybe Mexico is somewhere in between, like the case of Canada and the case of Gaza, right? So Gaza, I think you could like put up a blockade or like totally, you don't even have screening. You don't let anyone go in and out. At least, while there's a war going on, I think that could be a reasonable policy. Canada, I don't see that it's ever a reasonable policy so long as it's a peaceful country. Um, Now, Mexico, there is a lot of violence, but it's not a war like Israel is at war with Gaza. Um, there's a lot of there's some violence along the southern border, but it's not like an October 7th invasion where they come in massacre. Um, and I think the problem there is more I think it's more the drug laws. Um, like if you got rid of the drug laws, that if you legalize drugs, then I think a lot of the crime would go away. Because I think when drugs are illegal, then that creates a black market, and that increases. It becomes profitable to work in that market because the risks are very high. So there's huge profits to be made. Um, but if you legalize them, then you can just have competition that'll drive down prices. So I'm concerned that you're not really dealing with a fundamental problem if you want to close the US Mexico border because there's some violence. Um, the solution there is to have more freedom, not less freedom, where less freedom would be putting more restrictions on immigration, whereas more freedom would mean getting rid of the drug laws, making drugs legal. Um, so I think there's many sorts of cases where the government does something which creates a problem, and then like it makes drugs illegal, and then that creates a problem, lots of violence on the black market, and then instead of the way to deal with that is to remove what created the problem in the first place, not make things worse by having more government intervention. Now because we created all this violence, now we're gonna stop immigration, right? And impose even more government force on the situation and make it extremely hard or impossible for well-meaning, peaceful people who just want to come here to live a better life, make it very hard or impossible for them to come here. And then that's going to create um, more problems. Now there's going to be human trafficking, people trying to come here illegally because you made it hard or impossible to come here legally. Um, all right, so see, we got some. Let me try to get through some more of these chats. Um, Jason says he saw you on in Prague or Prague. I remember before you were teaching me how to pronounce it in Prague. Tom says businesses could advertise that they donate to the government. Yeah, that's on the topic of government funding, and that could be a way of incentivizing people. Like if you can say you're a donor to the government, like all things being equal. Like if one restaurant or yeah, if some restaurant says it donates to the government and some other restaurant says it does not, then if I'm kind of on the fence of which restaurant I want to go to tonight, I might say, well, I'm gonna I'm going to give my business to the one that made a donation to the government because they are they're helping me out by funding military, police, courts, which makes my life go better. So it's in my self-interest. It's egoistic for me to support that business. And so it's there's I guess this is one way in which you see the harmony of interests and how it can actually be in your self-interest to donate if you do things like advertise the fact. And maybe you could boycott businesses that don't donate or that refuse to donate. Maybe put them on a blacklist. Maybe they'll get less customers and go out of business. Or at the very least, you could just not patronize them. There's different levels of harshness, which is not to say you should necessarily be harsh. I don't know. Maybe that's not appropriate in all cases. Maybe it is in some cases. Um, Jason says, um, I think even with open immigration, we check everyone. We cannot eliminate passports. There are too many problems if someone jumps jurisdiction. Um, I wonder if this is a case where there needs to be some kind of transition period. Like there are some things like Social Security I've talked about, which I don't think we should get rid of overnight. It's just too embedded in people's lives. It would cause too much destruction, too much pain and disruption to just overnight. Some people live on Social Security, right? That's their income. Um, and they paid into the system for decades. Now, I wonder if there's also some kind of transitions, gradual transitions that would be appropriate in the case of um, dealing with immigration. Like maybe there should be passports for a while, but eventually they can be phased out. Like, and you don't need them. I think I might have heard or read that there were no passports in the 19th century, but you could still travel. You could just I don't I don't know that you need government documents like that. I don't think they even had birth certificates uh, in the beginning of this country's history, or they certainly didn't have social security numbers. Some unique number identifying every person. Yet the country functioned, and there was tremendous progress in the 19th century. So I don't know that you need passports. Um, why do you need passports? Maybe for a while temporarily, but what you say there would be too many problems. Okay, maybe you elaborate in the next chat. Let me read more. Um, you say I can see that someone coming from Sweden being checked instantly, even by machine on entry. Someone from Nigeria might need a few months at the embassy. Oh, so for depending on the country you're coming from, you could get in quicker or slower. Someone coming from Sweden might be admitted instantly, but someone from Nigeria might need a few months because Nigeria has is more dangerous. Um, if it's more dangerous, I don't know much about Nigeria. Aren't there a lot of Nigerians immigrants to the United States? I think there are, and actually, Yaron Brook talked about the level of income of various sorts of immigrants, and I think Nigerians might have been at the top of the list, like per capita income. I don't know if maybe he said they were even higher than Americans per capita. I'm not sure. So, but I don't know much about Nigeria. But anyways, um, maybe it's reasonable to have like if you're coming from Iran or Gaza, um, then maybe it's reasonable to spend more time checking those people out before they're admitted. There's got to be some kind of threshold of like And I'm not sure like where you a threshold of where you just let someone in without any checks at all, and then where you do some screening. So if you're coming from a country we're at war with, well, I'm not sure they should be let in at all if it's during a war. But if it's a country with a hostile regime like Iran that says their government says death to America or death to Israel, and they finance terrorists around the world that who kill Americans, um, I guess for those countries, it's more plausible that people coming from there should be screened. Um, so yeah, I guess if they're coming from a country that's physically, but there's still the complication of like in the Iran case, you've got this bad government, and then but I think a lot of the people in the populace are not bad. Um, so do we screen everyone from Iran or just I don't know. Like, why not just block the people involved with the government and let in everybody else? Why screen everybody else? I, anyway, that's where my mind is right now. So maybe my where I am will change. My thinking will evolve over the course of this stream. But let me read some more of these chats. RW says, I think they would be okay with no voting for a couple of generations. Um, how about voting once they get citizenship? Why penalize entire generations? I'm concerned that's maybe too collectivist a way of thinking. Like you're penalizing an entire nationality instead of just treating people as individuals. Um, like if you have no evidence that someone is a threat to America, why not let them immigrate for one, and then start the process of becoming a citizen, which I don't really know what that involves, but I think they have to be here for a certain number of years. But why make an entire generation or two generations wait to be citizens if that's what's implied by saying they can't vote, since you have to be a citizen before you can vote. Um, like should Ayn Rand not have been able to vote because she was a first generation immigrant? Even though I think her ideas were better than the idea, I guess the ideas of anyone pretty much who came over here. Well, at least they became better. She didn't have an entire philosophy worked out, but she was concerned that America was becoming like the place she left from, right? It was the red decade in the 30s, and communism was her ideas sympathetic to communists were growing. The New Deal came started in the 30s, so America was going in the direction of bigger government, which she had escaped. So, yet she wouldn't be able to vote, and Americans would. Um, on if you have this rule in place that you can't vote for a couple of generations. Um, okay. RW says, when I say screening on criminal and terrorism, I mean from a database owned and controlled by our intelligence agency that spy on these countries. Just a sec, I want to check my analytics here on my phone. Okay, so you mean from a database, screening from a database owned and controlled by our intelligence agency that spy on these countries? Okay, so you don't mean like pulling someone aside once they reach the border, like at Ellis Island or at an airport, or maybe they couldn't get on the plane. They would have to be screened at their home airport. And you're saying you don't mean that. You mean just looking someone up in a database. But when would you do that? Like when they express an intent to their governments that they want to immigrate? At what point do you look them up in the database? See, that's something that in the 19th century, I don't think there was like a database where they looked people up and they made a decision on each person who wants to move to a new country. I think people they just moved. You just um, Augustina Vergara Sid at the Ayn Rand Institute. She specializes in the issue of immigration, and the way she summarized the process of immigrating in the 19th century, that is the 1800s, in one of her talks, it was you buy a ticket, you get on a boat, and you move. That's it. So there was no looking people up in a database. Something I don't know if I got that exactly right, but I think that was the gist of it, something like that. I don't want to misquote. But you didn't have to look someone up, and I guess you and some of the people who move, maybe they could decide to move back, right? Maybe try it out for a while, see how they like it, and either stay or go back or go somewhere else. But I don't think so. You didn't even I don't think you needed to express like what your intentions were. Like you intend to become a legal permanent resident of the United States. Um, I think you just get on a boat, go over there, try it out. What business is it to the government whether you intend to live there permanently as a resident? Why does the government need to know that? I think what it needs to know is, are you a threat? Like, are you a physical threat? And I think you should be innocent until proven guilty. So they have no reasons to, if they have no reason to think you're guilty, just treat you as innocent. Um, if you're coming from a place like Gaza, then I think there is a reason to think there's a good chance they're guilty and that they're going to cause trouble if these people want to destroy Israel, the little Satan, then maybe they want to destroy even more the great Satan, Americans, America and Americans. But if we're not talking about that sort of place, just treat people as innocent until guilty. And there's no need for the government to know what your intentions are, whether you want to move somewhere permanently or just go there for a vacation or try it out for a while. Um, that's what I think right now, at least. Maybe you can persuade me to think differently. Keep an eye out for bad people, not based on what those other countries say. Not talking about petty crimes. Have to have screening at borders, otherwise enemies could come through those borders. Enemy goes to Canada and then drives into America. Um, Okay. Yeah, I mean it's possible that could happen, or but I'm still not sure that justifies screening, at least in an active way. Like I was thinking maybe you could have guards like in watchtowers at the border, not guards that stop people from coming in, but just they're on the lookout for suspicious behavior, or it's like if someone comes in with a cannon or a tank, machine guns or something, then the guard could take some action, right? Because he sees something that looks threatening. So what if you just had monitors there looking at the people crossing in, but who aren't actually stopping them unless they seem threatening? You could say that again, you could say the same thing about states. Should we have guards in watchtowers at state borders? Um, I mean, you could, but like, let's say if all of a sudden um, you started to have an uptick in violence at the Texas-Oklahoma border, then maybe it's a good idea to have some guards there to monitor the traffic. But as long as things are going well, if there's no uptick in violence, why bother with it? Likewise with Canada, as long as there isn't any trouble uh, originating from Canada, just let people through. You don't even need guards monitoring. But once you start to see an uptick in violence, then you could progressively take stronger measures. Like first, you could just have monitors watching people. Then, then if the problem gets worse, then maybe you could actively screen everyone coming in. Um, Why does it say, oh, okay. I was looking at my Facebook page for a second because it was telling me I have a bunch of notifications more than I usually do, which I think is because I was logged in on my Selfishness Project account. So I had a lot of old notifications built up. Switching back over to my personal account. Okay. Um, RW says he's not talking about petty crimes. How far am I behind? Um, Jason says, I think a lot has to do with extradition treaties. Consider if a heinous U.S. murderer is in Canada facing the death penalty, they may not be returned based on some Canadian principle. So maybe it's countries could publicize lists of criminals and share them with each other. I guess there could be an incentive for good countries to do that. So if there's a heinous U.S. murderer, like Jason says, oh, by the way, before I forget, the chat I don't think is going to be available as a replay. I don't know why, but when I set up the stream for today, it wasn't giving me the option to have a live chat replay. So um, I'm going to copy all the chats that I see right now and then paste them into another document so that I could then paste them into a comment uh, on this live stream. So you can at least read it there, even if YouTube's live chat is not going to be available. That happened once before. I don't know why. And then the next stream I did, the live chat replay was available as it usually is. It's so I don't understand that. But let me start a new document here where I'm going to temporarily paste the chats. Okay. So I got up through 2:41 p.m. I got at least those. Okay. Oh, Audrey is here. Hello. Hola. All right, where was I? Oh yeah, the one from Jason about heinous murder. Yeah, so maybe countries can share lists of criminals with each other. And I guess if the person has committed a serious enough crime, like murder, he should be in jail or executed, right? So there's no issue of him immigrating. Or if he's committed robbery, something that's not going to get him executed, but maybe get him some jail time, he'll be in jail. He's not going to immigrate. And if he served his time, like maybe he gets 10 years in jail, after that, well, it would be wrong to penalize him further, right? He's already paid the price, right? He spent 10 years of his life in jail. Let's say that's the penalty for robbery, at least the kind of robbery that this guy did. He's paid the price, so now he's back to zero, right? So I don't think you need to screen him then. So he's either not immigrating because he's in jail, or he is immigrating, but that's okay because he's already done his time. Jason says the Nigerians and Kenyans do well here and in Europe. Lots of doctors, but there are a lot of scams and crime. I'd want them to come, but I get their background checks may just take longer logistically. I mean, if certainly if you're a private employer, you can do a background check. Well, I don't know what kind of records would be available to you. If someone's coming from Nigeria and you do a background check on them in the United States, are you going to have access to any information on them, like from Nigeria? Like, is the Nigerian government sharing that with you or some private organizations in Nigeria? I don't know how you would, if you did a background check, I don't know what kind of information you can get if you're doing it on a Nigerian or a Kenyan. But like, I was thinking, even if it's reasonable for a private employer to do a background check, I don't know that it's right for a government to do it. Um, Unless it has specific evidence that they're the physical threats. Uh, or coming from a place where where there's a high percentage like Gaza. That's where my mind keeps going as an example of um, a place where you might want to screen everyone, even though not every single individual is necessarily going to be a criminal. just because there's such a high percentage of them who I think are reasonably thought to be threats, physical threats. Um, so, but then is it arbitrary? Like, what if, let's say, the chances of a random person from Gaza being doing some committing some crime is like 70%, and st just statistically, and the chances of a random person from Canada committing a crime in the US is like, I don't know, 5%. Um, is it just arbitrary where we draw the line and say like, oh, we don't have to screen any Canadians because the chance they're going to be the statistical probability they're going to be a criminal is so small, but the but we do screen all Gazans because the statistical probability they're going to be criminals is very high. Like, where do we draw the line between where it's right to screen everyone and where it's wrong to screen everyone? Um, but maybe this is kind of like the age of majority, right? They're like, is it just arbitrary that we set the line at 18 in the United States? Well, it's not entirely arbitrary. I think there's some optionality to it. Like setting the age of majority when you're no longer a minor who's not responsible for everything. Let's say we put the age of majority at 50. That would be crazy, right? And it would also be crazy to set it at like 5 years old. 18, I think, is reasonable. But different countries have different points at where they say you become an adult. Like some countries it's 16, some countries it's 21. But those are all within a reasonable range, and there is some optionality. I wouldn't say it's arbitrary. If it was just totally arbitrary, then why not? You could just set it at 74 or 3 years old, right? And I think maybe something analogous is going on in the case of screening people from other countries. Maybe like if 99% of the people are going to be threats statistically, then it would be crazy not to screen everyone coming from there. If only 1% of the people is a threat, it would be crazy to screen everyone coming from there. But that doesn't mean there isn't some like range of optionality analogous to the like 16 to 21-year-old age of majority. Um, so maybe there's something like that going on here in this case. All right, let me read some more of these chats. Jason says Iran has suggested not giving citizenship for 2 generations. It seems a good compromise and a way to phase things in. Okay. Uh, I guess I didn't hear that show. Then he says it seems a good consideration, a way to phase things in. Are my words. Not sure if that was Yaron's reasoning. Okay, then RW says I'm fine with Ayn Rand not voting. Maybe there could be honorary voting given to individuals who become famous for supporting individual rights like Ayn Rand. The point of multiple generations until voting is having a better chance of them assimilating. There's a threat from fundamentalist Muslims. That was not a threat back when you are discussing for immigration. So maybe different different lengths of time for different countries of origin. Like you were saying before, have a tiered list of countries is maybe something like that would be reasonable. Um, I'm not sure. Jason says, innocent until guilty, but it is proper for a government to keep tabs on those who've committed crimes. And we need a system to share that information, I guess, that would be in extradition treaties. U-Haul truck with a dirty bomb, says RW. So you need screening for things like that. Well, that could also happen across state lines. So I'm curious how you react to this issue I keep bringing up about, well, what about crossing state lines? You could cross a U-Haul truck with a U with a dirty bomb in a U-Haul truck across state lines. So are you thinking it's just more likely at the international border? In that case, I think it depends on the international border. Like, I don't think it's likely to happen across the Canadian border. Maybe it's even less likely, for all I know. Jason says, as to people from no man's land, ISIS controlled or influence, just wild terrorists, known places, they will have hoops to jump through with our intelligence agencies, probably to ensure assimilation. Okay. That's the last chat before Audrey's. Okay. I don't know that I have more to say on immigration right now, at least. Thanks for coming by, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks for the likes. Wondering if any of my new Facebook subscribers came by. Jason says Iran has suggested the idea of a basic citizenship test for everyone as an ideal. Also, only those who pay voluntary taxes can vote. Okay. Or voluntary contributions, you might say. If you think of taxes as being coercive by nature, but I know what you mean. RW says regarding state lines, I imagine that intelligence agencies have a tighter monitoring on the purchasing of the necessary materials for mass destruction bombs within its own country. So people aren't likely to be crossing straight lines with mass destruction bombs. I wonder what the statistics are uh, on that. Like, have more people cross state lines in the US with weapons of mass destruction than have crossed the Canada-US border? RW says, pretty sure you have to get special permits from the government for certain materials needed for mass bombs. I'm not familiar with the rules on that. All right. I am actually starting to feel kind of tired. I don't know if it's just this topic. Maybe I'm just exhausted on this topic. I don't know that I have much more to add. So um, I'm not sure I want to, I'm not sure I can continue much on this. But I see there are six people here now. If anyone wants to raise a different topic, maybe I can engage more. Otherwise, I might end the stream and have a shorter stream than I did last time. Um, but I think I might be exhausted on immigration at the moment. Uh, all right, eight people now. Oh, actually, oh, thanks for the additional likes. I see that that also went up. Let me also copy some more of these chats while I remember. You can also remind me to do that. Uh, where's the last one I did? I think it was 241, where, yeah, Jason says probably to ensure assimilation. So, yeah, I'm going to copy starting from there. Ah, it's kind of finicky. I lost my copy. I have to redo it. Okay, now I got them all. All right, so for anyone who has just joined, welcome to the show. I promote Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism here, philosophy of reason, egoism, and capitalism. And for some reason, YouTube didn't let me select the live chat replay option. So I'm just doing a copy and paste of the chat right now into another file so that after the show, I can paste them all into a comment below the video, since I don't think the YouTube's live chat replay is going to work this time. Okay, RW says, thanks for discussing immigration. It's nice to know that it isn't so straightforward. I've been thinking about it a lot after listening to Sam Harris talk about Islam. Have you heard or read any of Harry Binswanger, his articles on immigration? There are some free on his website, hbletter.com. I'm going there now. He has a blog called Value for Value, and that's not behind the paywall, unlike other parts of his website. And I'm doing a search on immigration. Ah, there we go. Bunch of articles here. Here, I'm going to share this screen. So Harry Benswanger, objectivist philosopher, he's written a lot about immigration, and maybe he's been the most influential on me of people who discuss this topic. But here's his website, hbletter.com/blog. There's other parts of his website. This is the member forum. This is behind a paywall. But if you go to his blog, Value for Value, he just redesigned his website, by the way. So um, it might look a little like it needs some adjustments in places because he just did a redesign very recently. But if you go to the blog Value for Value from that menu and then you search on immigration, I just did that. And these are the articles that came up. Why objectivists disagree on immigration, why immigration is a right, for open immigration. And that's just the first page. Looks like there's another page of articles. Let's see what's on the second page. Oh, okay. Amnesty for illegal aliens is not enough. They deserve an apology. Reprinted from Forbes online. I remember that one way back in 2013 when that came out. So there's a lot there, RW. You might be interested to check some of that out. I don't know if you've already seen these, but if you haven't, I would recommend taking a look at some of that. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap up for today. And I don't know when I'm going to stream again because I think I might be more vary up my times and days more than I used to. But I at least wanted to do one stream again at the formerly normal time. So welcome again to any of my new Facebook subscribers who came from Facebook. I appreciate that. And thanks everyone for being here. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the subscribes. All right. I will see you in a future live stream. If you are a subscriber, if you hit that notification bell, you will get some kind of notification when I go live. So whenever that is, you will be notified. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone. See you later.